I always thought my dad was one of the good ones. The kind of man who woke up early to make coffee, drove me to school, and always said, "I'd do anything for you, sweetheart." But I guess, sometimes the prettiest words come from the best liars. One April morning, my mom, Valerie, dropped the glass she was rinsing, because right there, on the kitchen laptop, she saw that my college savings account, the one she and my dad had built, dollar by dollar, for 13 years, was gone. Not hacked, not some banking glitch, he moved it, all of it, $85, gone without a trace. And what did he leave behind? A single message: "Val, I'm sorry, I need space. Please don't make this harder." No message for me. No goodbye. Just a clean exit. As if being my father was something he could unsubscribe from, Mom collapsed into a chair, buried her face in her hands. And me? I just stood there, staring at the screen. Staring at the zero balance like it could explain something. Yeah, I cried. For exactly 4 minutes and 27 seconds. And then, I opened my laptop. I logged into his email. I followed the trail of transfers. And what I found froze me to the bone. It wasn't just betrayal. It wasn't just a man running off with another woman. It was worse. He used my name, my identity, to sign a mortgage for a beachfront villa, with her. I'm 13 years old. But he made me a legal party on his midlife crisis love nest. No one asked me. No one warned me. They just used me, like property. But here's the thing. I wasn't going to be the victim in this story. Because over the next few weeks, I turned my bedroom laptop into a courtroom. And I started tearing down their dream, brick by digital brick. If you've ever believed that kids are powerless when adults betray them, you're about to unlearn that belief. Stay with me till the end, because this isn't just a story about a kid getting justice. It's about reclaiming your trust and learning how to protect it, even from the people who said they'd never hurt you. Savannah, Georgia, a peaceful coastal town draped in Spanish moss and dotted with old wooden houses that smell faintly of lavender as dusk rolls in. People say time moves slower here. The perfect place to raise a child with love and calm. That's what my family used to be. My name is Sienna Collins, 13 years old, 8th grader at Jasper Point Middle School. It's not a big school, but it's just right for a kid like me. Someone who's obsessed with computers. I'm not into sports. I'm not on the cheer squad. But if you ever need someone to build an app, write a banking system simulator, or set up 2-factor authentication for your email, I'm your girl. I like things that make sense, clean code, clear logic, numbers that don't lie. That's what I believed in. Until everything started to crack this past spring. My mom, Valerie, is the gentlest person I know. She works at the local community college library, spending her days helping students find books, reading stories to little kids on Saturday mornings, and always smelling faintly of coffee and old paper. She's the kind of person who always puts others first. Sometimes too much. She loved my dad, Daniel Collins, with a kind of pure-hearted trust I used to admire. Whenever he came home from a work trip, she'd make his favorite roasted chicken. Every birthday, she'd write him a handwritten card and leave it on the sofa. And every time he told one of his boring dad jokes, she'd still laugh like it was the first time she'd ever heard it. As for my dad, Daniel used to be the man I wanted to grow up to be. At least, when I was younger. He looked like someone straight out of a TV commercial: crisp white shirts, plain colored ties, a warm, trustworthy smile. He worked in finance, spoke in a language of markets, interest rates, and long-term growth strategies. But to me, he was the guy who helped me open my first savings account, the one who took me to the Tech Expo in Atlanta. The first person who told me, "You can do anything, as long as you stay curious." I remember he once told me, "Do you know why I always invest in the future, Sienna? Because it's the one thing you can't lose, if you prepare well enough." I believed him, and I think Mom did too. Maybe that's why the fall hurt so much more. Dad moved to Charleston, South Carolina about a year ago. He said it was for a new job, that his company needed him closer to headquarters, and splitting time between two cities was just a temporary thing. Mom believed him. I wasn't so sure. I started noticing things. He came home less often. His replies took longer. Video calls ended suddenly because of last-minute meetings. But I still thought he was a good man. Just busy. Trying to take care of us, maybe. Our family. Until then. Was still a photo, the three of us, laughing on Hilton Head Beach, sunlight in the background, Mom's hair flying in the wind. That photo's still on the mantle at home. But now, only two people in it are still here. The day my dad disappeared, without a word. I didn't cry right away. I just watched my mother collapse at the kitchen table, her hands shaking as she stared at the screen of her banking app. Zero's balance. Not just my college savings, our entire joint account. Gun. There must be some mistake, Mom whispered, her voice dry. He'll call back. Hey, he must have made a mistake. But he didn't call. Instead, he disappeared like a stranger. A few days later, Mom got a message. Just 9 words. Val, I need space. Don't make this harder. No apology, no explanation, not even a mention of me. I sat on the stairs, listening to Mom breathe heavy, then stifle a sob, and I knew. Something had broken. I didn't understand why he did it. Why a man who once taught me about honesty, ethics, and doing the right thing could turn his back on every value he ever preached. But I couldn't sit still. I couldn't let him walk away with everything without leaving a trail. I'm the daughter of a kind-hearted librarian. And a man who once built financial models for a living. He had to leave footprints. And I, armed with YouTube tutorials, coding books, and a bit of gut instinct, was going to find every single one of them. What I didn't know was how far this trail would take me. Friday, 8:12 a.m. My mom was doing the dishes. I was at the kitchen table, laptop open, finishing my final science paper. Outside the window, the sky was clear. That soft Georgia spring sunlight that makes you think it's going to be a good day. Everything felt normal. Until Mom suddenly said, barely above a whisper, Sienna, did your dad withdraw money from the savings account yesterday? I looked up, frowning. No. Why? She dried her hands and walked over to the old family laptop on the kitchen counter. Typed in the online banking password. Waited. Then she froze. I felt a chill crawl up my back. Like the temperature in the room had dropped, and even the thermostat didn't notice. I pushed my chair back and walked over. There it was, right on the screen. Checking 8.54 savings ever delivered college fund is elder all 3 accounts. Empty. I turned to say something, but nothing came out. Mom stared at the screen, her hand trembling as she moved the mouse toward transaction history. Then she whispered, everything was transferred 4 times in 2 days. And she was right. 4 massive transfers, totaling over 90,000, all sent to one destination, D. Collins Private Holdings. My dad, there was no question, he did this. Mom sank into a chair, her body folding like she'd lost all weight. No, this isn't right. He wouldn't. This has to be a mistake. Some kind of system error. But we both knew. Banks don't accidentally transfer 90 grand. She tried calling him. Once, twice, 5 times. Then she texted, still no response, and then, the phone buzzed. She snatched it up like a drowning person grabbing a life ring. But it wasn't a call, just a message. One I'll never forget. Val, I need space. Please don't make this harder. That was it. No apology, no explanation, no mention of the money, no mention of me, just a blank command, like she was the one at fault for noticing. Mom sat motionless. The phone slipped into her lap, eyes wide, unblinking. I think she was trying to process it all. Trying to stitch together the memory scrugs, the birthday hugs, the laughing dinners, the times he said, everything's gonna be fine. Now it all sounded like lines from an old play. I don't know how long I stood there. The dishwasher went quiet, the birds outside felt distant. And then a single tear rolled down my mom's cheek. She didn't sob. She didn't scream. Just one slow tear. Like everything she believed in for the past 15 years had quietly dissolved. That afternoon, I logged into my dad's old bank account. The one he used to let me practice mock banking on for a coding project last year. I still remembered the password. Dad wasn't one for change. When the account opened, I wasn't sure what I expected. But what I saw stole the air from my lungs. A massive wire transfer, $85, had been used as a down payment for a house in Jacksonville Beach, Florida. I clicked the details. Co-signer Kendra Lawson. Not my mom. Not anyone we knew. I googled her name. Turns out she used to work with my dad at the same finance company. Age 31. Investment advisor. And from the posts, The photos, the captions I understood. They weren't on break. They were building a new life, on my mom's back. And with my name. That night, Mom didn't eat dinner. She just sat at the kitchen table, holding a cup of cold tea, staring into nothing, and me. I opened my laptop. No crying, no shaking, no rage. Just an emptiness, like a deep, echoing void. But I knew one thing: my father left a trail, and I was going to follow it, IP by IP, email by email, account by account. He thought he could take everything and disappear. He was wrong. After the banking screen dimmed. After my mom sat frozen for 3 straight hours without saying a word. After the entire house sank into a silence so thick it felt like tar. That's when I finally spoke. Not with tears. Not with a scream or a shattered, "Why did he do this?" I just got up, poured a glass of water, placed my hand on my mother's shoulder, and said quietly, "Don't worry, Mom. I have a plan." She looked up at me, eyes hollow, confused, like I'd just spoken in a language she didn't know. She tried to smile, but it didn't reach the corners of her mouth. "Sweetheart. This it's something you should worry about." I didn't answer. I just turned and walked to my room. And began. It was 11:48 p.m. I opened my laptop, put on my headphones, and launched the note, taking software I always use for coding projects, blank page. First line PROJD dati de la ver. I didn't know how far this would go. But I knew one thing. I wasn't going to sit back and watch my father disappear with my college fund, my mother's dignity, and our future. As if we were just some typo in his life story. I started with the basics email. Ever since I first started coding, I understood one thing. Nothing on the internet is ever truly gone. No one disappears completely. They just assume no one knows where to look. I remembered how my dad used to let me test security protocols on a mock banking app he built for fun. That's when I learned how he managed his passwords. Always some variation of Collins plus a year. I tried his old work email. The one from back when he was still at his first firm, DeCollins Finance A9 Gmail. Password attempt pi100 a DeCollins 20 yen 3 note 211 the year he and Mom got married, still wrong. 3. DeCollins 2010, the year I was born. Login successful. My heart pounded. I didn't think it would be this easy. Maybe he thought a 13-year-old wouldn't know where to start. Maybe he thought I was too naive to even try. He was wrong. His inbox was full, but I skipped straight to the sent folder, because betrayers always leave more clues in the messages they send, not the ones they receive. And I was right. The first thread I opened was between Dad and someone named K. Lawson. An email address linked to another finance firm in Jacksonville. Subject line RE, mortgage finalizations flight booking. I clicked. Inside was a PDF attachment, a purchase contract for a home worth $490,000. Under, payment source, it clearly read, source college fund sub, account S. Collins, minor. I blinked. Almost couldn't believe what I was seeing. I, a 13-year-old, had been made a co-signer on a house I'd never seen, with a woman I'd never met. I downloaded the file, encrypted it, and saved it in a hidden folder named Evidenced Fraud 01, and then I kept going. I accessed his connected Google Drive. Not much in there, but one Excel file stood out, 2024 budget planning. Inside a detailed spreadsheet dividing finances between Household A and Household B. Household A, me and Mom. With a note, April. Household B, Daniel, Kendra. And this, target relocation June. Funds secured. I saved everything. Next tab, Facebook. Dad barely used it anymore. But I accessed linked accounts via his email and got access to a hidden Instagram profile, Dita C. Beach Life profile picture. Him and a blonde woman, walking hand in hand on a beach in Florida. I clicked the photo, zoomed in, looked closely, and for the first time that night, I felt something burn slow and cold in my chest. Not anger. Something colder. The gut-deep realization that I'd been replaced. A new family, a new life, and me. The name on the college savings account, just a funding source. I sat in silence, the blue glow of the screen reflecting in my glasses. I thought of Mom. Still sitting on the couch, holding her cold cup of tea like it could anchor her. I thought of the family photo above our fireplace. The one that still had him in it. And I knew. I couldn't afford to lose control. I couldn't let emotion take the wheel. The adults had set the rules. Now it was my turn to play. There are some nights when you think you're trapped in a bad dream. And if you just go to sleep, you'll wake up and everything will be okay again. I used to believe that on the first night I discovered my dad had emptied my entire college fund. But the second night, I stopped dreaming. Because the second night was when I realized, he didn't just take my money, he took me. I started tracing credit activity. I knew most credit monitoring tools were built for adults, and any unauthorized inquiry might trigger alerts to the registered email address. So I went another route. I logged back into Dad's email, followed the breadcrumbs from his bank notifications, and there it was: subject. Congratulations, your new card ending in 5127 has been approved. From First Sun Credit Union. I clicked. Primary cardholder Sienna L. Collins, billing address, a temporary apartment in Jacksonville, Florida. Guardian authorization, Daniel Collins, legal custodian. I froze. My dad had used my name to open a credit card, legally authorizing it under his custody rights. I checked the approval date. March 27th, just 5 days before he vanished. Just 5 days, before my world fell apart. Before I could move my hands away from the keyboard, another email popped up under Documents. Subject line: Final mortgage packet, Collins and Lawson, Jacksonville property. I opened it. Over 20 pages. Clear scans of a full mortgage file, including the loan application, co-signer verification, ID documents, and most chilling of all, a forged signature. Mine. Maybe an adult would have skimmed over it. But not me. I knew that signature wasn't mine. The Sienna had a weird loop in the letter N, a swirl I've never used in my life. And more importantly, I had never signed anything, ever, let alone for a mortgage. I scanned down to the financial source section. Initial down payment $85,000. Source: student trust account, beneficiary, Sienna Collins. It felt like someone punched me in the chest. My father hadn't just betrayed me. He had turned me into a financial accomplice for his dream life with someone else. I looked up the name Kendra Lawson. First result: LinkedIn. Former investment advisor at Landers & Finch, the same firm my dad worked at for 7 years. Left the company 2 months ago. Listed personal email: Kendra lives free. Instagram came next. Private profile. Only 84 followers. But the bio stopped me manifesting a life by the ocean, soon to be international. International. I went back to Dad's email. Searched the word passport. A full thread popped up. Between my dad and an immigration consultancy in Portugal. They were applying for a golden visa, a program for investors with property worth over 500,000. Attached a detailed plan: sell the Charleston home, transfer funds to a private EU account. Use the Jacksonville property as a financial anchor, leave the US. Within 6 weeks I leaned back in my chair. Eyes fixed on the screen like I was watching a crash happen in slow motion. But the one getting hit was me. I hadn't just been left behind. I'd been used as a name, a number, a legal Luklin in a getaway plan. They planned it all. The money, the identity. Me. The timeline, set while my mom was still paralyzed by grief. And me, I was just a silent variable in their little equation. It was 2003 I created a new folder on my computer. Named it Colilif Re Mast. Inside, I added 5 subfolders. Identity theft, property fraud, financial movement, international flight risk, evidence, screenshots. I began organizing everything. Every file, every screenshot, every forged document. I didn't cry, I didn't scream. I documented. Adults think kids don't notice things. They think we're too busy watching YouTube or playing games. They forget it was on YouTube I learned to write Python. It was inside games I learned to build strategies and defend what's mine. And now, I wasn't the betrayed kid anymore. I was the only person sharp enough to stop 2 criminals from burying themselves in their own deception. I closed my laptop at 4:07 a.m., not because I was tired, but because now I had enough to begin tearing their whole world apart. There's one thing my father, Daniel Collins, never considered. He thought he could steal money. He thought he could betray trust, wreck the reputation of a family. But he forgot the memory of a kid who's good at coding. I remembered how he once lectured me about financial transparency, professional integrity, and how honor is the one asset no investment can ever buy back once it's lost. Maybe that's exactly why, when it was his turn to break those very values, I knew exactly what to do. I started by gathering every piece of evidence I could find, sort, and encrypt. Not on my main hard drive, I used a virtual ACE 256 encrypted volume buried inside a simulated project container labeled Project Mars Rover, the perfect name to keep curious eyes away. Inside, I neatly organized every email from his account regarding transfers, mortgages, and conversations with Kendra, the Florida mortgage document listing my name as financial collateral, the forged credit card application under Sienna Collins, minor, email threads detailing their relocation plans to Portugal within 6 weeks, bank transfers, foreign accounts, broker payments, and flagged international remittance receipts, and yes, Instagram photos of Kendra. Wrapped around my father in front of a beachfront house, still under purchase. I remembered my father once worked for Landers and Finch, a major financial firm headquartered in Atlanta with offices in Charleston. He resigned 6 months ago. But I also remembered something else. He once told me, half-jokingly, the ethics committee at LNF is so strict, if you blink the wrong way, they blacklist your career. So, that became my first target. I created an anonymous email account under the alias Whistle Witness, then routed it through 5-layer proxy servers. Sweden, Singapore, Brazil, and a few more in between. Then I drafted my letter to Ethics Landers Finch. Org subject URT fraudulent activity, linked to former employee Daniel Collins, to whom it may concern. This email is sent in good faith to report serious financial misconduct, linked to Mr. Daniel Collins, a former employee of your firm. Enclosed you will find clear documentation of unauthorized identity use of a minor, his daughter, to secure a mortgage loan worth nearly 500,000. Diversion of educational trust funds to support a property investment, with a non-spouse partner, a planned attempt to move offshore using illicitly acquired capital to obtain international residency. Please review the attached files. Mr. Collins' current activities may pose reputational risk to your organization due to his former association. This is not blackmail. This is accountability. Respectfully, a concerned citizen. Attachment Kali asked Arayuda Mastar. Zip encrypted password provided below. I hit send at 3:08 a.m. I knew they wouldn't read it right away. But by morning, there was a very real chance a few boardrooms would have their blinds drawn and voices lowered. Next, the credit card companies. I researched the identity theft hotlines. I couldn't file as an adult, obviously, but I learned that minors with forged signatures and legal proof are processed through special channels. I filled out the Federal Identity Theft Report on the FTC's website, uploaded PDFs with signatures, matching them against my actual handwriting, notarized timestamps, screenshots. I then submitted fraud alerts to Equifax and TransUnion, 2 of the 3 major credit bureaus, and requested a credit freeze on all activity linked to my social security number. I didn't expect the police to knock on his door tomorrow. I knew how the real world worked. But I also knew this. The financial world hates unreported liabilities, and it really hates being tied to potential PR disasters. Before I went to sleep, I checked the anonymous inbox. 2 system emails had come in from Landers and Finch. Your report has been escalated to the Ethics Committee for urgent review. A compliance officer may reach out for further details. Your identity will remain confidential unless you specify otherwise. I turned off my screen, didn't smile, didn't cry, just felt still, a strange, silent steadiness settling over me. For the first time in days, I slept. I didn't know what would happen next. But I knew one thing: I'd made the first move, and for the first time, he wasn't in control anymore. Tuesday morning. Only 3 days had passed since I sent that anonymous email to the Ethics Committee at Landers and Finch. 3 days since I filed the identity theft reports, froze my credit, and submitted every piece of evidence to the federal system. I wasn't expecting some TV drama level result. But I forgot one thing. The American financial system never moves slowly. Not when a potential fraud might hurt their own bottom line. The morning started with a ping to my alias inbox. Whistle Witness. I'd made that email just for this operation. Subject: thank you. She's out. The sender's address was cryptic. Just compliance Lenfa counts. Org: no greeting, no sign off. Just one line. Your documentation triggered an emergency review. Kendra Lawson's access to client accounts was suspended yesterday. She was escorted from the building at 3:45 p.m., We appreciate your discretion. I read it 4 times. Kendra Lawson, my father's mistress, his partner in this entire plan, was fired. No warning. No protection. Gone. Because of me. I left my desk and walked downstairs. Mom was pouring coffee, still in her robe, her hair loosely tied behind her neck. "You're up early," she said, her voice tired. I sat down and reached for a piece of toast. "I just have some things to take care of today," I said. She nodded slowly. "Thank you for being strong, Sienna. You make me feel a little less alone." I almost told her. Told her that I'd done more than she knew. That I'd just taken down the woman who stole my name and nearly my future. That she had been locked out, fired, and cut off. Because of me. But I didn't say anything, just quietly ate my breakfast, like any other 8th grader getting ready for school. That afternoon, at 4:18 p.m., the house phone rang. Its shrill tone sliced through the soft music playing in the kitchen, where Mom was preparing dinner. She reached for it, but I got there first. I don't know why. Something in the sound of that ring made my heart pound faster. I picked it up below. A second of silence. Then, a voice I knew too well. Shaky, raspy, almost broken. "Valerie. It's me. Daniel, we need to talk. Now." I held the phone to my ear. "Valerie's not here," I said, my voice steady and clear. "This is Sienna." Silence. "Sienna?" Pause. "Oh, Sienna. Sweetheart, I need to speak to your mother. There's something serious happening." I kept my voice calm. "I can pass the message. She's making dinner." A sharp inhale. "The bank just called me. All of our accounts are frozen. Mine, and Kendra's. They said there's been fraud detected, and our mortgage file's been flagged. Do you know anything about this?" I looked out the window. The sky was painted in soft pink and purple. A Georgia sunset. "I do," I said. "What?" he gasped. "You do, Sienna. Who did this? Who's—" I cut in. "I did, every step of it." Silence. The ceiling fan whirred overhead, filling the space with a soft, mechanical hum. It was the only sound in the room. "You, what the hell are you talking about?" "I'm saying I know you used my name to open a credit card. I read the mortgage documents. I saw the emails about moving to Portugal. I know you impersonated me to take out a loan. And I know you took 85,000 from my college fund." His breathing turned uneven. "No, Sienna, you don't understand how adult things work. I was just. I understand enough to know it's illegal. And I understand enough to know. You deserve what's happening." I heard a loud thud. Like he'd slammed a fist against a table. "You have no idea what you've done! You think a few emails can destroy me. Do you even understand what this will cost me?" I stayed calm. Unmoved. "I'm not trying to destroy you. I just needed you to stop. And for the first time, you're finally feeling what it's like to lose everything. Because of your own decisions." Silence again. "Sienna, I love you." I closed my eyes. Then opened them. "You love me so much you stole my name to build a new life with another woman." Another pause. "Sienna, I'm sorry." I smiled. For the first time since he left. No need to apologize. The financial system will take care of you, before your conscience ever does. And I hung up. I stood in the kitchen. Mom was rinsing vegetables in the sink. Still unaware that the first call from the man, who once shared her bed, had just been answered by the daughter they raised together. No police showed up. No handcuffs clicked into place. But I knew, for the first time in his life, he was afraid. Because he realized the one coming for him wasn't his enemy. It was his own daughter. 3 days after the first phone call, the phone rang again. This time, it was an unknown number. No name, no familiar area code. I was in my room, just finishing a new financial recovery plan for Mom. She was in the kitchen, rinsing dishes, water dripping softly in the background. I stared at the glowing screen of my phone. And for a few seconds, I just listened to the silence before the storm. I picked up. "Hello." His voice came through, but it didn't sound like him anymore. "Sienna, it's Dad. Please, don't hang up." It wasn't firm. It was fractured. Like his throat had been dragged across hot gravel. And something about that sound told me he was completely broken. "You know," I said, my voice even. "At first, I thought you disappeared for love. But then I realized, You didn't leave because you loved. You left because you thought I wasn't smart enough to find you. He exhaled. Heavy. Labored. You don't understand, Sienna, it's not what you think. It all started as a temporary solution. I was going to put everything back. I was going to. You were going to steal my name to take out loans. To buy a house for someone else. To rebuild a life. Without me, I interrupted calm. No rage, just facts. Daniel's breath hitched. Then, I've got nowhere to go. I'm living in my car. All my accounts are frozen, the mortgage was denied, and Kendra left. Silence. She said she wouldn't sign anything tied to someone with invalid accounts. She's gone. Not answering. Not home anymore. And now you're calling for help. I asked. Because you've got nothing left. It's not help. I just want you to understand. You've shattered everything. You made it so I can't go back. I let out a breathless chuckle, unseen. You made me a co-signer on a $500,000 loan. I'm 13. Do you even realize what that means? I didn't just lose money. I lost credit. I nearly lost my financial identity, my future. You didn't just steal dollars. You stole me. But I got myself back. He stayed quiet. No excuses. Maybe he knew there was nothing left to say. Or maybe, he finally knew he couldn't lie his way out of this one. Finally he spoke. His voice was hollow. Defeated. I'm not the man I used to be, Sienna. I don't know why I became like this. I replied softly. Like a lullaby wrapped in frost. I think, you were never the man I thought you were. And maybe, that's the part that hurts the most. I heard the wind whistling through his line. Maybe he was sitting in his car, windows down. I pictured a man who once stood in a crisp suit, corner office, now curled into the front seat, alone. No money. No house. No honor. I didn't feel joy. I didn't feel triumph. I just felt justice. Then he said, Sienna, if you want to press charges, I understand. If you hate me forever, I won't blame you. But please don't destroy what's left of my life. Don't keep going. I paused. Then said, quiet but clear. You should have picked a girlfriend who didn't use your daughter's birth year as a password. On the other end. He gasped. Like I'd knocked the wind out of him. That was the final bullet. Not to kill. But to remind him. The one he underestimated, was the one who brought him down. I held the phone to my ear, but I didn't say anything. Just so he could hear it. Silence. No tears. No forgiveness. Just the silence of someone who doesn't believe anymore. Then I hung up. No shaking. No regret. Just a full stop for a man who thought he could take everything and never give anything back. That night, I opened the file Solinstfr@Udmastar. I typed one last note, final phase complete. Subject neutralized, emotionally, financially and legally. Collateral damage none. Future risk low, protocol closed. I shut the laptop. And for the first time in months, I dreamed of the ocean. Not the ocean where my father planned to start his new life with another woman. But my ocean, the one in my dreams, where I choose the path. With the name I reclaimed for myself. My mother used to be the kind of woman so gentle. She almost disappeared. She hated conflict. Always the peacemaker in every argument. At dinner, she'd set an extra plate for Dad, even when he came home late without a word. When things went wrong, she never lashed out. She just washed a few more dishes, organized another drawer, carried her pain quietly, like a folded napkin in her apron pocket. She was the kind of woman the world assumes will never fight back. But my father's biggest mistake was thinking she'd always stay that way. After that final call from him, I told my mom everything. No more hiding, step by step, evidence by evidence. I showed her the forged mortgage documents, the wire transfers, even the audio recording I saved from the last conversation. She didn't speak for a long time. Then, she said something I'll never forget. I've lost a husband, but I haven't lost myself. And I won't let him take your future too. 3 days later, we had our first meeting with a financial and identity theft attorney at the Ligalid, Georgia office downtown. Mom wasn't wearing her saggy gray cardigan anymore. She wore a crisp white blouse, her hair tied back, low heels, but sturdy. I sat beside her and handed over the encrypted USB containing the case file I built. The lawyer, Linda Alvarez, opened it, scrolled through the folders, then looked at me, eyebrows raised in disbelief. "This girl did all of this?" she asked. My mother nodded. "She gathered every piece. And I'm here, because it's time I start acting on it." The consultation lasted 2 hours. The outcome: Daniel Collins was eligible for criminal charges on 2 counts: identity theft and financial fraud. Because I was a minor, the use of my identity for legal financial gain carried aggravating circumstances. Landers and Finch, his former firm, had already launched their own internal review. They agreed to cooperate, supplying evidence and internal memos. We had grounds to pursue civil compensation for both financial and emotional damages. That afternoon, my mother signed the paperwork to authorize legal action. And I looked at her, not as the woman who once stood broken after betrayal, but as Valerie Collins, the mother who refused to let her child live in the shadow of a man who walked away. That night, after dinner, she pulled out a stack of papers from her purse. I looked up from my laptop. "What are those?" She smiled. Genuinely, for the first time in weeks, I signed up for a personal finance night class. 8 weeks, beginner's level, at the community college. My eyes widened. "Seriously?" She nodded, firm, proud. "It's time I learn how to protect my money, my name, and my future. You don't have to carry it all. It's my turn to protect us too." I didn't say anything. I just felt that strange sting behind my eyes. That quiet, warm ache. The following week, we rebuilt everything. New bank accounts, with 2-factor authentication, credit monitoring software, identity theft insurance for both of us. Mom learned how to use mobile banking, how to read transaction history, how to pull and understand a credit report. And most importantly, she no longer bowed her head when talking about money. The day of her first class, I left my old notebook on the kitchen table. On the front cover, in bold black marker, I written Opiarata Ion Railam. Inside were my messy notes, hand-drawn diagrams, and one final sentence in thick strokes. "We don't rebuild from the ashes. We rise because we never really burned." That night, Mom came home around 9. She sank into the chair, tired, but glowing. I asked, "Was it hard?" She laughed. "Hard. Yes, but I love the feeling of taking control. Back then, I handed everything to your father. Because I thought that's what trust looked like. But now I know. Trust doesn't mean giving up your right to know. Some rebellions don't need shouting. Don't need fists on tables or courtroom dramas. Sometimes, rebellion is a woman, once overlooked, standing up quietly and saying, 'I don't allow this anymore.' That's my mother, Valerie Collins. A woman once left behind in her own home. Now learning how to hold the keys again, and choosing never to hand them over. 3 weeks after our first meeting with the attorney, my mother got a call from a Washington, D.C. number. The caller was a federal agent. The case of Daniel Collins, my father, had officially escalated into a federal investigation for financial fraud and the identity theft of a minor. And it wasn't just me. As they dug deeper, investigators uncovered 2 more victims from his time as a financial advisor. Investment accounts that had been manipulated, money shuffled through shadowy funds with no clear origin. One belonged to an elderly woman who lived alone. She had no idea her retirement savings had been cycled for over 2 years. Another was a disabled adult whose parents had passed away, leaving his finances in the hands of a court-appointed guardian. That guardian was Daniel. The press began to catch the scent. At first, it was just niche finance blogs. Then came a full expose in the Atlanta Tribune's Watchdog section with a headline that read, "A Financial Advisor's Fall from Grace, Daniel Collins, and the Scandal-Shaking Trust in Personal Finance." From there, it spread fast. News stations picked it up. Kendra Lawson, Daniel's mistress, was permanently banned from practicing financial advising after failing to verify any legitimate income from the past 2 years. Daniel was subpoenaed. Federal prosecutors officially stepped in. His accounts were frozen, his assets temporarily seized. In every report, the identity of the anonymous whistleblower became its own mystery. They called the person the source. Someone believed to be tech-savvy, financially literate, and unusually precise. No one knew who they were, and not a single outlet, even the most curious journalists, ever guessed that the source was a 13-year-old girl from Savannah, Georgia, who still showed up to school every morning wearing a uniform and carrying a purple backpack. I kept living my life. But no longer as a victim. I created a new account, under the alias Bite Guardian, and began publishing guides on how to detect and prevent financial fraud inside families. One article at a time. How to spot if a parent or relative is opening credit accounts in your name. How to pull a minor's credit report, even when the system says they're too young to have one. How to report identity fraud to the FTC and major financial institutions. And most importantly, how to protect your name. Because it's yours, and no one has the right to take it. My mother, Valerie, never told a soul. She didn't speak a word to her coworkers at the library. Didn't whisper a thing to our neighbors. She told me, we don't need sympathy. We just need to know. We didn't stay silent. Once, a reporter from the Atlanta Tribune called our house. They wanted to interview her. Offered to pay for her story as a key witness. She declined, without hesitation. The person at the center of this story isn't ready. And I won't let the world see my daughter as a girl who was betrayed. I want them to see her as someone who stood up. The story kept spreading. But we stayed silent, not out of fear, but because we had already fought hard enough. Then one day I got an email from a nonprofit in California. Cybersafe Youth. They invited me, Bite Guardian, to help advise on a national program, financial security curriculum for middle school students. They didn't know who I was. They just knew I wrote like someone who had survived hell. And I said yes. I didn't need a stage. I didn't need a microphone. I just needed to know that every word I typed could become a door for someone else who felt trapped. As for my father, he now lives quietly in some small town no one's heard of. Every few months, he reappears in the news, always a new headline. The latest. He's been permanently banned from the financial advisory industry. Maybe he's applying for other jobs. Maybe he's writing apology letters to strangers, but he hasn't reached out. And I'm not waiting. Because I took my name back. One crisp autumn afternoon, my mother sat beside me, watching as I typed up my newest guide. Aren't you tired? She asked gently. I smiled. Of course I am, but I know this. If someone who was betrayed by her own father can rise up and protect others, then no system is beyond repair, not even the system of trust. I closed my laptop. She placed her hand over mine, and in that moment, I understood something deeply. We didn't just survive betrayal. We redefined what it means to be protected. By learning to protect ourselves. If you're still listening, maybe you've been a Sienna. Maybe you've been a Valerie. Maybe you're someone whose trust was stolen, and you don't know how to start again. Hear this: your name is yours. Your dignity is yours. And no one has the right to take it. If you're willing to take it back. By late fall, Savannah had turned cold. Maple trees lined the streets in shades of gold and red, and students began showing up to school in coats. Sienna was no different. She still woke up early, had breakfast with her mom, and slung her backpack over her shoulder before heading to class. But every night, after homework was done and lessons reviewed, she didn't go on TikTok, she didn't scroll Instagram. Instead, she powered up her laptop, logged into a private encrypted Discord server under the alias Bite Guardian. On the other side of that screen, hundreds of kids from all over the US were waiting for her. The server was called UNCLAIM. It wasn't get in without passing 2 questions. How old are you? When was the last time you noticed something suspicious in a bank account, credit card, or financial document with your name on it? The answers didn't have to be perfect. They just had to be true. If they were, access granted. Inside, no one was called a victim. No one was a problem child. They were members. Each had a custom nickname, a chosen color. No one had to use their real name. Every evening, Sienna hosted short micro workshops, about 45 minutes each, teaching kids how to check their credit for free using annual credit report. Red flags that your name is being used in unauthorized financial contracts, how to file identity theft reports with the FTC, even as a minor, and most importantly, how to talk to adults about what you've found, calmly, safely, without burning everything down. The group's primary resource, a 47-page PDF titled, How to Know If Your Parent is Stealing From You. Written by Sienna herself. It wasn't sensational. It didn't demonize adults. It just broke things down, Simple, clear, and written in words kids aged 10 to 17 could actually understand. From tiny signs like bank letters addressed to you when you've never opened an account, credit card notifications showing your name on your mom's phone, student loan applications with fees you've never authorized, to the very last page, where Sienna wrote, "If you find out you're a victim, you're not crazy, you're not imagining things, and you are not alone." Sienna's mom, Valerie, knew everything. But she didn't interfere. Every night, as the bedroom light stayed on past midnight, she simply placed a cup of warm cocoa beside her daughter and quietly stepped away. Once, Valerie whispered, "You're doing something most adults wouldn't dare. Not just healing your own wound, but turning it into a bridge for others." One December morning, a short voice clip, just 48 seconds long, was posted online. It was a recorded conversation between Sienna and a fellow group member, shared with full consent by a former adult survivor. The clip wasn't dramatic, but one line set the internet on fire. "Sometimes, adults teach you to protect yourself by betraying you first." Within 4 hours, the quote had gone viral across Twitter, Reddit, and TikTok. A national youth publication, Teen Issues Today, called it the sentence that shifted a generation's view of trust and self-protection. No one knew who said it. No photo, no full name, just the line. By Guardian, 13 years old. Each week, Sienna received hundreds of messages from kids across the country. "I think my dad's doing this too. Thanks for letting me know I'm not alone. I checked my credit file. There are accounts in 2 states I've never even been to. I'm not ready to tell my mom, but this group's helping me make a plan. I thought I was weak. Turns out, I just didn't have a map." She'd never met any of them in person, but she knew their screen names, their emojis, their writing styles, because each child who joined that server was a version of who she once was. On those early nights, when she discovered the betrayal, but didn't cry, in a short year-end livestream, using a voice modulator, Sienna shared one simple message: parents can give you life, but your identity, your trust, and your future, those are things you may have to protect yourself, and if someone tries to take them, even someone you love, you have the right to take them back. It wasn't a threat. It wasn't revenge. It was empowerment. The voice of a girl who once stayed quiet, now lighting the way for hundreds of others. The real twist wasn't that Sienna defeated her father, it was that she didn't stop there. She turned a personal scar into a communal safety net, and in a world where identity can be stolen with a single click. One 13-year-old girl built something the system had forgotten, a belief that even children deserve protection. Sienna never thought she'd become a symbol. She just wanted her name back. She just wanted her mom to stop being sidelined. And more than anything, she wanted to make sure no one else would ever have to feel the same fear she once did. The fear of realizing the person who hurt you most was the person you loved the most. But Sienna's story isn't just about a child fighting back. It's a wake call, loud and urgent, that we can't keep neglecting financial education, especially for kids. Look around. How many adults manage their children's accounts without ever explaining a thing? How many kids are taught how to save money, but not how to ask questions when something feels wrong? And more importantly, how many of us have felt that something wasn't right, but stayed quiet simply because it was someone we loved? The greatest lesson from this story isn't about exposing someone. It's not about hacking skills or digital revenge. It's about one fundamental truth. Don't ignore the red flags, even when they come from someone you love, because love is not blind. Respect doesn't mean you stop asking why. And family, whether it's a parent, a sibling, or anyone else, never has the right to take your identity, your value, or your voice. We need to change how we teach kids about money. Not just how to save, but how to recognize when someone is abusing their trust, how to protect their personal information, how to say no safely, how to ask for help from the right people. Because the world doesn't wait for kids to grow up before it tries to exploit them. And that's why financial literacy is not optional anymore. Not even for kids. Sienna isn't some rare, gifted superhero. She's just an 8th grader who liked computers, got hurt, and chose not to let that hurt be the end of her story. You don't need to be a hacker, or a coder, or the lead character in a movie to take your voice back. You just need to remember this. If someone is making you feel unsafe, financially, emotionally, or mentally, you have the right to ask questions. You have the right to say, no. You have the right to protect yourself. And you are not alone. And if you're still listening, please remember, this story isn't just about Sienna. It's about anyone who's ever stayed silent. About the kids who were never believed, never heard, never taught that they have the right to defend themselves. About the ones who thought, maybe I'm just imagining things. Maybe I'm too sensitive. Maybe I should stay quiet to keep the peace. No. You're not imagining it, you're not too sensitive. And you don't have to stay quiet. If you believe children deserve protection, financially, emotionally, and with dignity, like he spis be, and saw this story. This isn't just a video. It's a declaration. We won't let those who were hurt fight alone anymore. And if you even suspect that someone, even inside your own family, is using your trust, your information, or your identity to control your life or profit from your silence, please hear this: you are not alone. You have a voice. And we're here to listen. This is the Revenge Journal, where we tell the stories of those who were once broken, but chose to rise, reclaim justice, and pass the light on to someone else. Stay with us. Speak up, and if you're ready, let us help tell your story.